Hey guys, Dozer here, bringing you a new video that's going to be talking about Prism, and this is going to be a different type of video that I'm used to doing. So I was talking to a playtesting buddy of mine, and he was telling me, hey Dozer, you've been playing this tank Prism for a while, and a lot of people are really interested in it, I love that you guys watch my videos, and I'm really happy to be able to share my love for Flesh and Blood, especially Prism, with you guys. And it's always really fun, talking in the comments and trying to answer questions here and there. But, you get a lot of questions a lot of the time that I feel like I've answered before. And, that tells me that there are some things that I'm not being very clear on in my videos. So I wanted to try and make a video to try and address some of the key concepts behind playing Tank Prism and Aura Prism in general that could help newer players or players that are thinking of getting into Prism but not necessarily being sure where to start or how to start transitioning all the experience they built with other heroes and translating it to work with Prism. So hopefully you enjoyed this video where we're going to be talking about, kind of the really deep dive into how to play Tank Prism, and hopefully you can learn something here. So let's get started. So first thing we're going to talk about is going to be Spectral Shields. I'm of the opinion that whenever you look at a new card or new hero, you want to look at them without thinking of other heroes, if that makes sense, because you want to understand every card in a vacuum and how it works for that character before you start thinking about how it works in relation to other characters. So for instance, a Spectral Shield is very similar to an Enchanting Melody, but they're completely different cards. They have completely different uses, costs, benefits. It's a completely different thing, even though they do a very similar job. So for Spectral Shields, we know that they prevent one source or one instance of damage from a source before being destroyed. They're illusionist auras, and they can become weapons because of our illusionist weapons, like the Iris of Reality or our Luminaris, and we can buff them with different things. We can attack multiple times a turn with them. They can stop damage for us, explode to deal arcane when we combo them with other auras. These are the workhorse of the deck. This is as core to us as the Dawnblade is to Dorinthia or the Kodachi's are to Katsu. They are our bread and butter. They do everything for us. They attack, they defend, and they represent our actual long-term value in a class that doesn't have an actual weapon to attack with. A lot of characters like Dorinthia or Katsu or Bravo or Rhinar, the list goes on, have weapons that they can just get value out of. They don't have to play cards every turn in order to win a game. Eventually they could be left with one card in their deck and swing the weapon every turn and be just happy. But for us, we have to win before we're out of cards, because once we're out, we're out. We have nothing left to do. And even if we have cards to pitch with, if we can't get them to do anything, they're going to go to our graveyard and never be seen again. So we have to make sure that as Prism, we are winning before we run out of cards. And we don't want to let people grind us down and fatigue us. So we have to make sure that we're getting as much value out of our cards as possible over the course of multiple turns. And that's why Spectral Shields are a really key tool for us to take advantage of. So moving on, we can start talking about Prism's ability. Prism's ability, we all know this, but it's very simple, but very, very deep in how it's used. So once per turn instant. Cost 2, banish a card from Soul, create a Spectral Shield token. This not only allows us to create Spectral Shields on our side of the board, it also allows us to put cards into our pitch zone in order to set up and activate our Luminaris. So let's say we use an Arclight Sentinel as an example here. Arclight Sentinel is yellow, so if we were able to pitch this to activate Prism's ability, again, cost 2, yellows are worth 2, we banish a card from Soul, whatever it is, we make a token, our Luminaris is now active. We can represent that with a little die here because we have a yellow in our pitch. So now, any illusionist aura we control is a 1-attack weapon, has a ability to attack for 0 cost, and does 1 damage. Well, it also gets go again, and that's crazy value, because the more Spectral Shields we have, as you well know, we can start pinging our opponent down with a barrage of spectral shields. You know, one go again, one go again, one go again, one go again, and so on. When you start combining this with other effects, this becomes incredibly difficult to defend against, and so you're going to be able to get chip damage through, which is one of the key things that Prism can do that no other character can do. No other character can attack so wide on a turn with so little pitch investment or so few things going right. All Prism has to do is have a wall of shields up, pitch a single yellow card to do some ability, and all of a sudden she's able to attack wider than any character in the game. Now that's why Tank Prism works. Tank Prism is relying on this unique ability of Prism to not only stock up an offense that can snowball and get bigger over time, but also relying on the defensive aspect as well. If you get, let's say, 5 shields up at any one time, not only are you able to attack for 5 damage every turn by pitching a single yellow for any reason, you know, playing a card or activating an ability, but you're able to also heal 5. You know, spectral shields are basically heal for 1, which is why it costs us 2 resource and a soul to get that benefit. If we had to pay 1 resource or just banish from soul to make a token, it'd be way too strong. And so, and honestly, it's better that it costs us 2, because we can put a yellow into pitch, no problem, and turn on our go again and be happy. You know, so best thing about Prism is these shields, is the synergy with our own ability and Luminaris, so that as long as we have soul, we have the ability to pitch a single card and swing with all of our weapons. Now, that being said, keeping this many shields alive is no easy task. And that's why we have the ability to make a number of shields without relying on our soul being filled. First thing we're going to do for that is going to be using Spectral Shield, or Prismatic Shield. Prismatic Shield makes Spectral Shields and is an instant. One of the key things that makes Prismatic Shield so powerful is the fact that it is an instant. Not only can you play this in response to your opponent attacking you, so let's say you're being attacked with a Crippling Crush, and let's say you can't block more than 8 damage on a turn because you had a defense reaction in arsenal, and maybe you had another defense react in hand. Well, you still need to block 3 more damage, so the ability to play Prismatic Shield to throw up that little bit of extra buffer between you and your opponent's hit is going to be able to save you from an on-hit effect or from losing something else that you might need to protect. Like, let's say you had a Spectral Shield in play already, and let's say it was buffed up with its attack value, so maybe it had 6+1 attack counters on it. Well, if you could only block for 8 damage and you're getting attacked with 11 Dominate, Prismatic Shield can come in and effectively be that third block that you would have had trouble getting anyway. You can throw 3 Spectral Shields in front of that shield, stop that extra damage, and keep it alive. Now, it's not ideal to be using a Prismatic Shield to stop just damage because you're giving up on the offensive value of the card, but the ability to prevent on-hit effects is incredibly relevant. So Prismatic Shield is not only useful to us in the color of red, but also as a yellow, because the yellows still make 2 shields apiece. If we compare that to Prism's ability, which costs us 2 to do, this only costs us 1 more and we get double the shields. So the question is, why does Prismatic Shield Yellow give us so little value? It's why is Prism's ability so expensive, right? Because Prismatic Shield Yellow, compared to Prism's ability, is way more efficient. But the fact that it's on Prism, which means we have access to it every turn, gives it a lot of value, compared to having to draw a card that doesn't block, doesn't synergize with our Genesis very well, and also doesn't give as much value as the red by such a large percentage. You know, we're giving up 3 shields to 2. That's a 33% decrease, you know. So thinking about how to use the Prismatic Shields is one of the first things you're going to have to learn in order to play Tank Prism correctly. So let's go into that for a little bit. So Prismatic Shield is not only strong because you can make shields in the early game, but it also is even stronger in the late game. No time is harder to block than when you're down to the wire, you're at like 10 HP, and every point of damage is what's keeping you between losing and winning. Being able to play a red Prismatic Shield, or even a yellow, in the end game with Go Again can spell disaster for your opponent as you ping them down, chip them down, to the point that they are not only within lethal range of the shields themselves, but also in all the buffs that you can apply to them, such as with Ode to Wrath, Glisten, or even by playing more prismatic shields in that moment to be able to get more damage through. So, prismatic shield, incredibly effective. It just works on its own. You can pitch yellows to activate your go again with it. And yes, it doesn't block, but in certain hands, it can do better block than actual cards that have defense values. So being able to recognize how many of them that you have left in your deck is a really key thing. For instance, there are a lot of games where I'm playing, and I'm always checking to see how many prismatic shields have I gone through, and which colors have I used. Where did I pitch them, and what was the pitch around them? Do I have enough defense reactions near my prismatic shields to keep those shields alive? And in this moment, do I need to prevent this on hit effect, or do I need to use these shields? A big problem that you can run into when playing as Tank Prism is getting really greedy with your resources. Your resources are finite. You will run out eventually. And being able to know when to give and when to take in regards to what your opponent's throwing at you is going to be incredibly, incredibly valuable to you, because if I have a red prismatic shield in my opening hand, now oftentimes I'm going to want to play that card. I'm going to want to play this card by pitching a single blue, maybe pitching a yellow first, or 2 yellows or something, and attacking with 3 shields to try and get some cards out of my opponent's hand to make it a little awkward, get some chip damage in, get a little bit of value out of them. Arsenal, and then pass on like a first turn. Getting that early start off is really beneficial, but in the early game, that chip damage isn't as relevant as it would be in the late game. So if I had pitched this turn 1 instead, maybe to attack with a Herald alongside something else, then in the late game, when I draw into Prismatic Shield, and my opponent might be low, I can then say, nice. I can play Prismatic, ping them 3 times for 1, get that chip damage in, or force them to block, which is even better, because again, they won't be able to attack the shields very effectively, and then we'll be able to ping them down again. Another thing about Prismatic Shield is that when your Vestige of Soul is active, all of your light cards will pitch for an extra resource, which means all of your yellows that are light will pitch for 3 resource, which will be enough to not only pay for your Prismatic in full, but also turn on your go again. This is a really key thing to look out for when you're planning your turns, because obviously you're going to be able to conserve your soul charges for the turns where you don't have any other options. Being able to keep that flexibility is a really key strategy for Tank Prism, because if you waste your soul just to turn on go again on a turn where you didn't need to do that, you're potentially giving up a future turn where you're not going to be able to get very much value out of your Prism ability. Alternatively, if you've got 1 card in your soul and you've got 6 shields out, and all you've got is maybe an Arclight Sentinel in hand, 1 card in soul, it's a really hard decision to say, okay, well, do I pitch this yellow Arclight, show my opponent that I'm giving up an Arclight to make a token and ping for 7 damage, or should I arsenal this Arclight, attack for 1 damage, and protect all my shields on the next turn by throwing out an Arclight and hoping for a bigger turn with the next cards that I draw? These contextual situations abound in Prism and are the real separators between experienced and novice players. And the best thing that I can do to advise newer players would be just to say, every single turn that you're playing this deck, you have to be thinking, how much value have I gotten out of what I've already played? And how much value am I going to get out of future plays? So if I played a Prismatic Shield on turn 1, and I kept those shields alive for 3 turns, I've attacked with them each turn, and so I've got 9 damage out of this Prismatic Shield. And then you come up to a turn where you've got some really important cards in here, like maybe you've got a Soul Shield, and maybe you've got a Tome, a yellow, and a blue, and they're attacking you for 10 Dominate. Do you throw everything that you have to try and Halo to go into a draw to do multiple things, or do you play a Merciful in that position if that was your yellow to get the pop of the Merciful arcane damage? Or do you just say, you know what? I need to arsenal this card. Maybe they're attacking you with a Command and Conquer, so you don't even have a chance to block with your Soul Shield. And you're thinking, okay, well, I could play a Merciful here by pitching my Tome and my blue. That doesn't feel good. Maybe I could pitch my Soul Shield and my Tome, but that doesn't feel good either. You know, you're having to make all these decisions, but it's all going to be in context with what's happening in the game. But a good rule of thumb is going to be, once you've gotten a couple of attacks with your auras, or with a glistened up token, or with anything, if you've gotten a couple turns of value out of it, that's normally a good sign that you don't need to commit everything in your hand to keeping it to generate more value. If you can, great. That means you're just generating more value over time. But there are going to be situations where you either can't comfortably protect your shields anymore, or you're going to have to give up things. Like if you have to block with your vestige to keep a glistened up shield alive, do you do that? You know, that's a really tough question, because, or even your footsteps, because these are really crucial resources that you need to have at very specific points in the game. And if it's too early to break it, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. So for instance, Vestige of Soul, let's talk about that. So in which situations do you want to block with Vestige to protect, say, a Spectral Shield that you've buffed up with Glisten tokens? Well, you have to think back to, why do we run Vestige of Soul in the first place? Is it just because it's a legendary? No. We run Vestige of Soul because it generates pitch value for us, which allows us to play our auras without having to give up our whole hand. For instance, let's look at Tome of Divinity. Tome of Divinity is the key card that we are going to be talking about when we're talking about the usage of Vestige of Soul. It costs us 4 and gives us 3 cards to draw if we put a card into our soul this turn, which is what exactly we want to have happen when we have Vestige of Soul active. So if we have 3 Tome of Divinities in our deck, which we do because Tome of Divinity is a key card for Prism to take advantage of, but let's say we have all 3 in our deck when we are attacked and we need to prevent that Spectral Shield from being destroyed. Maybe our whole hand is instants, you know? Maybe our whole hand is Prismatic Shields through some crazy stroke of luck. And let's say they're attacking us with more than enough damage than we could have protected from with just playing our Prismatic from hand. Well, if you have to block with Vestige or Footsteps or something, you're threatening having those broken. And again, we're talking about Vestige here. If we haven't even played our tomes yet, we cannot afford to block with Vestige of Soul to prevent one Spectral Shield from dying, even if it has Glisten tokens. Because the value of these 3 tomes in the deck is so much higher than the value of that one shield. Because if we have to block Vestige on one turn, what's to say that we won't have to block with something else in the next turn and lose it anyway? So we gave up our ability to use our tomes effectively by pitching a single light blue just to get 3 extra damage off of a shield. You know, that's how you have to start thinking about the deck. You have to know what each card is for, in which context it's useful for, so that you know when it's time. If you've used all of your Spectral Shields, or your tomes, for instance, like we've played them all, we've got our triple tome turned off, we're in the end game, and we've got a Glisten of Spectral Shield, we got no more Glistens on our deck, then yeah, you bet we're blocking with Vestige of Soul. It's already given us the value that we put it in the deck for. And sure, we'd love to have it around for a little bit of extra resource here and there, but if this can keep our Spectral Shield alive, or keep a key on-hit effect off of us, and we've gotten those tomes away, yeah, we're going to block with it. Same thing for Phantasmal Footsteps. You know, if you're in a matchup where they can break it very easily by having more than 6 attack on whatever they're doing, then there's going to be a situation where you're like, you know what? I don't have any more Phantasms in my deck that I need to force through. I'm not worried about their 6s popping my Phantasms anymore. I don't need this card anymore. I'll block with Footsteps, and even if it breaks, so that I can preserve Spectral Shields or a little bit of HP to stop an on-hit effect, like from a Command and Conquer or from a Pursuit of Knowledge, things that have very threatening on-hits. also think about using Halo. Halo is a very skill-intensive card because it can only be used once, and it costs a resource to use, and all it does is put a card into our soul. And yeah, it replaces that card with a card from the top of our deck if it was a light card that we put into our soul. But for a headpiece to do that, compared to blocking for damage or for opting the top of our deck or, you know, giving all these other benefits, how valuable is that card going into our soul? Well, if we put that up next with our Vestige of Soul, it starts making a ton of sense. Halo is the way that we can turn on our Tome of Divinity with such high reliability. If we did not have Halo, running 3 tomes would be kind of hard to justify. You know, you'd have to hit with a Herald or some other attack to really guarantee that soul hit, or you have to wait for a soul shield to come back to you, or for your opponent to break an aura while Merciful is out, or have like a Genesis out. All of these are very conditional things, whereas Halo can sit there until the moment you need it. And as long as you have the ability to pay for it and put that light card into soul and then pay for the tome afterwards, it's going to pay for itself right there because it's giving you the ability to gain 1 extra resource. So you're getting the resource you paid back for everything you play that turn. It gives you a soul, which will help you turn on your Spectral shields, and it'll help you draw an extra 1, 2, or 3 cards. You know, if I had a headpiece that says generate 3 resource and draw 3 cards, you bet I'd run that, and I do. It's called Halo of Illumination. But if you're in a matchup where you're getting just slammed, you know, they're drawing the perfect cards, card after card, and there's just no way that you can slow them down, you're like, man, I'm not going to be able to set up my pitch to get 3 Tomes of Divinity out. Or you say to yourself, man, I just am not getting the cards in the order that I need them to get these triple tomes off. You know, I saw a tome early on, I pitched it with the blue, and then I drew the second tome like 3 turns later, and there's like at least 8 cards between there and the next one. And then maybe the next one's got another 8 between it. So you just have these really spaced out tomes that are not going to combo well, especially while you're under pressure from your opponent. There are going to be some times where you have to say to yourself, you know what? This tome looks like a tome turn. We're going to Halo, we're going to tome, and we're going to see what we can draw. That's perfectly possible. You also might, on your turn, say, hey, Halo lets us pitch something. So if you have a 2-card hand, you've got, let's say you've got a yellow and you've got some other card, you can say, hey, I'm going to pitch this yellow card to activate my Halo, put a card into soul, and now I've turned on all my Spectral shields. You know, yeah, you've given up your Halo for that turn, but you've got something into your soul, you've activated anything that was sitting out there, and you're banking a Spectral shield for later to do it again. So that's just another play line that you have to be aware of. So where every card has multiple ways that you can use it. And if you restrain yourself mentally to only use a card in the one situation that you've thought of, you're going to miss opportunities that present themselves along the way. You know, using Halo to do a triple tome is great, and that's a reason we run the card. But again, it can block arcane damage with Spell Void. Like if you're playing against Kano, for instance. You can use it to turn on your Spectral shields instead of wasting a card from Soul. And it can help you bank Soul for your other turns and combo with anything else in your deck. Likewise, Footsteps can be used to block multiple times on a turn, because when you pay for it, it keeps that defense until the end of the turn. So if your opponent's breaking the combat chain, like how Chain used to do when he had Soul Shackle after doing a Shadow Verser, then you'll be able to block multiple damage on that turn and really get a lot of value out of that pitch, in addition to making a Spectral Shield or stopping Arcane. There's another fun play that you can do because of the way this works, where if they pop your Phantasm, you get to pay a resource and get your action point back. You can threaten an attack with a Herald. Like let's say you're attacking with a Herald of Rebirth. You can attack with a Herald of Rebirth pitching any blue. And when you do that, your opponent's going to have to make a decision. They're going to have to say, okay, do I let that hit me? It's got no go again. And you always say currently, because it's always true. For instance, you can activate Prism's ability as an instant on your turn mid-attack. So you attack, they may declare no blockers. You say, okay, I'll Prism, pitch in a yellow card to make a token, and then now your attack has go again because it hasn't finished resolving. You hit the 5, it goes to your soul, replace the card you just got out of there to make the token, and then you get the on hit to put maybe an erudition back on top of your deck. So your opponent has to say, okay, do I pop that attack right now, or do I wait? And if they pop it, you can say, thank you very much. I will use my floating to get my action point back, and now I'll play something else. So maybe you play another blue herald. Like if you had a hand of all blue heralds, there's no better play for you against a Bravo or something than simply attacking with the most threatening one you can attack with. If they pop it, great, you attack with another one. And now they've had to use 2 giant attacks out of their hand in order to stop you from getting value through. And then you're sitting pretty. You know, you're able to slow down their attack while also making full use out of your footsteps. Dreamweavers, on the other hand, is very simple, and it's really not that hard to use. So Dreamweavers just removes Phantasm from an attack on your turn, the next attack on your turn. It has Spell Void 1, so it's useful against Kano, but not as useful as Null Rune Gloves. And Dreamweavers is probably one of the most skill-expressive cards for Prism to use because, again, you only get it once. When you play it and when you use it is so critical that keeping it around is often more powerful than actually using it. So let's say, for instance, you're in the early stages of the game. You're ready to attack your opponent, and you've got your equipment out. You've got your tokens ready to come out whenever you're ready to attack with them. And you're saying to yourself, okay, I've got the nuts, right? Like, I've got an erudition in my hand and I'm ready to pop off. You know, got your erudition right here. You're like, yeah, I'm going to come in, I'm going to attack with this erudition. Let's say they don't have any armor, no cards in arsenal, they don't seem to be running defense reacts. You're like, all right, this is my time to shine. Do you activate Dreamweavers here? Think about it. You know, is it worth popping Dreamweavers on a turn where you're certain that erudition is going to hit? How likely is it that your opponent is running 6s, and how likely is it they have one in hand at that moment? You know, if you're playing against a Katsu, right? And Katsu doesn't want to block with Mask of Momentum, or even if he does, you'd want him to break it on an erudition attack. Or if he's got his Raised Rider boots, or if he's got his breaking scales, or whatever else Katsu runs these days. Let's say he doesn't seem to be running any flick-flacks because he's running like aggro Katsu, and he's not really running many attacks that have 6 attack. Like maybe he's running Command and Conquers, maybe he's running Nourishing Emptiness, just for those abilities to break your Phantasms. Is it even worth committing the Dreamweavers at this point? 90% of the time, the answer is going to be no. If you're attacking with erudition, no matter how juicy it looks, Dreamweavers normally has to be saved for a pivotal turn. A turn in the end of the game where you need that attack to go through. In the early game, there's still a million things that could happen between you winning or losing from the position that you're in. And using Dreamweavers before the end stages of the game is just not going to give you as much value as holding it around as a threat, so that in the late game when you are going for lethal, like if they're at 5 HP, you attack with erudition, you better believe you're going to talk your Dreamweavers there, especially if you've only got 1 erudition left. But if you've got 2 eruditions in your deck, you've got one that you're attacking with, that's the first one you're attacking with that game, is it really worth popping your Dreamweavers for that erudition? I don't think so. Now, there's going to be situations where that's not true. You know, maybe you're playing against a Bravo or a Rhinar, and you need to make sure that you are forcing them to waste their armor right away. Maybe they're being very aggressive, and you're not going to have time to save your Dreamweavers for the next erudition. And maybe this is your one window to try and get some cards out of their hand. Maybe you make them block, maybe you waste some armor. And let's say you're threatening an attack reaction as well. Let's say you're threatening a pummel, or let's say you're threatening a lunging press. Erudition, in that case, you'd 100% want a Dreamweavers. However, since Tank Prism doesn't rely on attack action cards, I tend to hold Dreamweavers for the very end of the game, because I need to make sure that if I'm throwing a big attack at you, let's say it's a Erudition, or let's say it's even a Phantasmic Lesson, if I'm throwing 9 at you, I need that 9 to make sure that it hits. Especially in the late game. So normally that's what I'll be holding it for. But in the early game, unless you have an attack reaction that you're pairing with these cards to try and get those key on hits off to really snowball from there, I really would recommend thinking long and hard about, is this the best time to use the Dreamweavers? Is there any situation that you can imagine where that Dreamweavers is going to give you more value based on what have you seen in your deck so far, what have you pitched, what's gone to your discard, and what that really will come down to is knowing the exact contents of your deck. Because the more comfortable you are with the actual deck list, the more likely you are to be able to accurately identify which cards you have left, which cards you need to plan for seeing, how long the game is going to go, and how much pressure being put under to see, okay, even if I draw into these cards, will I have the chance to play them? You know, maybe you draw into an Erudition and a Phantasmaclasm and you're like, wow, this is awesome. But then you think to yourself, well, I'm going to get attacked with 12 damage, and if it hits, it discards my whole hand. So no matter how much you want to keep these cards, I have to go ahead and block as much as possible. So maybe you have to block out on that turn and give up all those cards that you were saving. And then from there, you're thinking, okay, well, maybe in this more aggressive matchup, I should have just done Dreamweavers first. Maybe I should have recognized that they don't seem to have a lot of giant singular attacks, and that even if I Dreamweavers here early on in the game, I'd be able to get enough damage in late game by abusing my footsteps. Because one of the key things you need Dreamweavers for, at least in my experience, is when you're attacking with a Herald, you've got nothing in Soul. Like, let's say you've got just a Herald of Ravages. Let's say you've got 3 Spectral Shields out, or let's say you've got 5. No, but you've got no Soul. You've got no cards in Soul. And all you've got is a blue in hand and a yellow. This is the time that you want to have your Dreamweavers. Because you can say, okay, well, I don't have anything in Soul. I cannot afford them to break my Phantasm, turn off my Go again for the turn, preventing me from getting all this value out of these shields that I've been keeping alive. That's when you flip your Dreamweavers, you attack with your Phantasm, you pitch your yellow, you get your Go again. They can't stop it and make you waste your resources with your footsteps, especially when you only have a 2-card hand. And then you get to ping with all your Spectral Shields, end your turn. Maybe that Herald hit and went into your Soul. Maybe it didn't. But that Dreamweavers gave you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 value. That's so much better than a conditional Erudition. Now, maybe you've got an Erudition and a yellow, and the same situation happens where you've got a bunch of shields that you can get value out of. Saving Dreamweavers for situations like that is going to be so much more valuable than using it on a turn where you're like, wow, I can just do a lot of damage. Let me break my Dreamweavers just to make sure that I don't have to worry about them. No. You need to make sure that you're getting at least a full attack that's threatening lethal, so you're forcing multiple cards out of their hand, or you're preventing yourself from losing out on damage with your Spectral Shields or something like that. That's the true power of the Dreamweavers there. So now that we've kind of gone through every equipment, and we've kind of gone through the weapon, the hero power, let's talk a little bit about the general Aura game plan. And then we'll wrap it up for this episode, and then we'll take a deep dive in some other cards in a bit. So, Spectras alone are one of the key things that Prism has that separates her from the other characters. That and the Spectral Shields. The thing is, Spectra is a very difficult keyword to wrap your mind around because these cards don't give you a lot of value when you play them. Arclight Sentinel costs you 6 resource, and all it does is force your opponent to attack it. That's all it does. It doesn't do damage, it doesn't heal you, it doesn't search a card from your deck. It just says your opponent must attack this and give up Go again if they had it. And it costs 6. For reference, Spinal Crush, one of the cards in Guardian's class, costs 5, does 9 damage, and if it hits for 4 more damage, prevents your opponent from even being able to have Go again on their next turn. So this costs more than that and doesn't do 9 damage with a really crippling on-hit effect. So the developers are telling us that Arclight Sentinel is very powerful in its ability to be defensive. And it is. Anybody that's played against this card knows how good Arclight Sentinel is. Even if your opponent has to pitch their whole hand to pay for it, the ability to protect a field full of spectral shields or to prevent your opponent from attacking your Merciful Retribution is so incredibly powerful. In addition to Arclight Sentinel, we've got a couple other auras, specifically Merciful Retribution, because Merciful Retribution deals arcane whenever our stuff is destroyed, and if our light cards are destroyed, they go to our soul. Arclight Sentinel, if it's destroyed while Merciful is out, goes to our soul and deals an arcane to our opponent. Merciful, when it's destroyed, it's in play when it's destroyed, so it'll send itself to our soul and deal one arcane to our opponent. That turns on our vestige. Merciful's synergy with our vestige is one of the key reasons we run the card. The arcane damage is great, and it's really nice to have it when especially you're being attacked. You've got a handful of instants because Prism has to run instants, and maybe you activate a prismatic shield in order to get some value before you lose all your shields. And so, all right, you know what, I've got like 3 or 4, prismatic shields out, or spectral shields. I'm gonna play with a single blue on my opponent's turn, wherever we've got one in here. I'm gonna play a red prismatic because I can't block it anyway. I may as well make some shields to do some arcane at the end of that turn. It's like 6 arcane, and then they have to think, okay, well, I just took 6 arcane and I only had that one attack, so maybe I should have attacked the Merciful first. Or maybe they attack the Merciful. It goes to your soul. You've got a blue, a red, a yellow, and a yellow in hand, and you're like, okay, so you're going to attack my Merciful while I've got like 2 or 3 spectral shields out, because you want to make sure that I don't get the arcane off. It's like, okay, cool. It's gone to my soul, my vestige is active. I'll go ahead and play a Genesis, pitching a blue. And then now you have the option to either play a prismatic shield to make 3 more tokens, forfeiting to go again on your next turn, or you could wait and say, okay, well, why don't I just play prismatic shield on their turn, pitching a blue, make 3 tokens. When my turn rolls around, I'll play Genesis, or a pitch Genesis to make a spectral shield and turn them all on. Or you might even say, okay, well, with this hand, went into soul this turn, I might play a Ode to Wrath, and then on the next turn, you might pitch a Genesis in order to make a token and attack 5 times for 2 damage, arsenaling a prismatic shield for when they inevitably try and break your Ode, and then on the next turn, you might pitch some yellows and play a prismatic and attack for 7. These different play lines that you have are, and again, I keep saying it, but it's so true. They're so contextual. If they break your Merciful and you've got that extra resource off of Vestige, you don't always play the Genesis in this hand. Even if you can play it and put the Ode to Wrath into your soul to draw a card and make a shield, and you're like, wow, I got my Genesis going. It's like, yeah, but sometimes there's just better things that you can do. Sometimes you've got spectral shields out and you can take advantage of them that turn because they chose to break your Merciful, and you can start doing stuff like putting out an offensive pressure with Ode to Wrath, and then pitching a yellow in order to give them all go again, threatening a ton of damage and arsenaling a card. Or you might say, well, maybe they're going to be able to block this easily with spectral shields in the Prism mirror, and so Ode to Wrath might not be very useful in this situation. So maybe you say, okay, well, I want to make sure that I can kill all of Prism's spectral shields, so I'll play my own prismatic on their turn while I've got some resources, so I'll pitch a blue for it, and then you go into the next turn and pitch your Ode to Wrath, make a spectral shield. Now you're up to 7. You attack 7 times for 1, it's hard to block, and then you can arsenal the Genesis, so that when they inevitably try and attack you back and you have this spectral shield war going on, you can flip out your Genesis by pitching 2 cards. You'll have a 2-card hand still. You'll be able to put something in your soul, make more tokens, and start giving go again. So you always have to be thinking ahead, depending on the matchup, to say, okay, which of these cards do I need to pitch? Which of these cards can I put into my soul? Which of these cards can I play at this stage of the game? And which of these cards would be okay to save for later? Giving up the ability in the present to use them based on what your opponent is likely to do. So a key thing about the Tank Prism that makes it so hard to play is the fact that it's so dependent on what your opponent's trying to do. You have to know your opponent's game plan so thoroughly to be able to know what cards they have access to, what their preferred play lines are going to be, and you have to get in their head. You have to think, okay, well, if I were them, which of these auras would I kill first? Would I kill the Genesis? Would I kill the Merciful? Or would I try and break the Ode? Or would I be more scared of the Spectral Shields? If I saw a field full of all these cards, which one do I attack and destroy first? Would I attack the Genesis to stop the long-term value? Would I stop the Merciful from giving the defensive value? Would I stop the Ode from giving the multiplicative value off of every other source of damage? Maybe for your hero, you break the Ode Wrath first. It goes to my soul. You're like, well, now he's going to get more stuff to soul. Whereas I could have attacked the Merciful, stopped all these other ones from going to soul and giving them more resources. Or maybe you break Genesis, and it's the same thing. There's also considerations for playing against Tank Prism that I could go into some other time. But for right now, we're just going to stick to playing as Tank Prism. And we're getting kind of the end of this video. We're already pretty far into it here. So I think I will cut it here. We've talked about Spectras. We've talked about how they can give you value over time. And the other thing about them is the fact that they can block damage is extremely, extremely valuable. Your opponent has to decide, do I give up my whole turn in order to break these? And if they have go again or something and they're trying to attack you first, because they can't attack these and then attack after, maybe they try and break your Spectral Shields. But if you're able to block out, say with a bunch of Heralds, and let's say you block 9 damage, you still have a Herald in hand, and your opponent's looking at you and saying, well, dang, like, I couldn't break the shields. Even if I do, I'm going to take, let's say Arclight's not there, right? Even if I do break one of these, he's still going to have a couple more. He'll attack with the Spectral Shields on the next turn. This will go to his soul. Your opponent's in this lose-lose situation where they have to choose the lesser of two evils rather than being able to get a good play off. Because they can either keep trying to attack your Spectrals, which you can again block for, or you can let the shields die. You can say, all right, cool. I stopped all your damage. You're going to leave my other auras alone. I'm happy with that. I'll let you break these. You'll take the Arcane plus the loss of life from the Ode Wrath. And then at the start of my turn, I'm going to use Genesis to make more tokens and come at you anyway. Being able to set up these board states is the goal of Tank Prism. And the better that you can sequence your plays, maybe if your opponent attacks you and you've got nothing on the board, maybe you don't drop an aura right away. Maybe you let the attack resolve, you let everything else go through, and then they go to end step, they've got one card left in hand, you're like, okay, yeah, now I'm going to play a Genesis. And then maybe you have the ability to put a Herald into your soul in the next turn, make a token, and draw a card. Or maybe you're in a situation where Genesis is out, you've got one card in hand, and it is a yellow, like a yellow War Tune. And let's say you've got, I don't know, 2 shields out. All you've got is this yellow War Tune, and you're thinking to yourself, all right, I've got this one War Tune in my hand. At the start of my turn, do I even trigger Genesis here? Like, let's say you've got some cards in Soul already as well. Like, let's say you've had this Genesis out for a couple turns, you had a couple cards go to your Soul, you're not really worried about turning on your Spectral Shields in the future. Well, if you put this War Tune into your soul, yeah, you'll get a Spectral Shield. But if you draw a blue card or a red card, or you draw a, something else like that, well, you're not going to get your go again this turn. If you draw either one of these, you might be able to pitch this guy and go back down to 2 cards in soul, make another token, but you're still only attacking for 1 damage instead of the 5 that you should be able to if this was yellow. And let's say that you had just kept the Wartune Herald and had maybe 2 shields out. Well, maybe it's better for you to just banish the card from soul, forego the Genesis trigger, pitch your yellow, and then attack for 4 rather than for attacking for 1. Alternatively, let's say you've got a lot of Spectral Shields, and let's say one of these even has some Glisten tokens on it. Well, if you've got some Glisten tokens on one, and you've got a yellow in your hand and some cards in soul, you might say, well, hey, this is actually a really good opportunity for me to put this yellow into my soul and draw a card, because no matter what it is, you're still going to be able to attack for good damage with your glistened up shield. You'll have made a Spectral Shield from putting the card into soul with Genesis, and if you pitch to make another token by banishing from soul, you are further banking life to protect this Spectral Shield. And the reason we thought to do this is because, well, the context changes, right? Spectral Shield with tokens on it is very valuable. If we can make more Spectral Shields to insulate that shield against future damage while also being able to block out with our other cards, we're happy to do that. Because you could have a hand like this where we've got a no block and a couple ones that do block, and you can say, well, you know what? I've got 4 extra block that I've banked up from the past. So if they attack you for, 9 damage, you might even say, hey, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and block for 6 and lose 3 shields. You might even do that, because you might say to yourself, I'm going to arsenal this prismatic. I'm going to use this yellow to pitch on my next turn, or use it with the Genesis to try and see what you get. Like maybe you blocked with, again, let's say this was not a prismatic. Let's say it's another herald, right? Maybe you're like, okay, well, I'll keep this blue and lose 3 shields. So on the start of my turn, I can put this blue into my soul, replace one of the shields that broke with a new shield, draw another card, and then pitch a yellow to make another token. And so I was able to get all my go again active, cycle through my deck faster with Genesis, maybe to find a tome, maybe to try and do a combo play, instead of hard committing to keeping some shields alive that didn't really matter as much as the ones that you already had. Alternatively, if you think you can block out, then yeah, by all means, block 12, forego your Genesis trigger, swing for 4, and have a good experience there. So kind of in closing, this is why it's so hard for me to answer comments about how to play the deck. Every situation, every board state that you could show me, I could have at least 15 different approaches to how I'd like to play it, depending on matchups alone. If I was playing against Orinthia, if I knew that I couldn't really guarantee on keeping these Spectral Shields alive long term, am I going to prioritize blocking out, or am I going to prioritize getting the value that I can out of them, letting her break them to absorb some of her Dawnblade damage, and then rebuilding and attacking with other things, like attacking with Heralds, or saving combos like Merciful Retribution to get the arcane damage to go through, and then poking for 1, letting her attack a Spectra, replacing the Spectra with another one, and throwing some Heralds at her. Or maybe I'm against Reinhardt, and I've got Spectral Shields that are hard to keep alive because he'll intimidate me. Maybe I have to go ahead and say, okay, well, maybe I've got a hand of Prismatic and some of these other cards, and I'm saying to myself, okay, can I even risk trying to respond to his intimidates with a Prismatic Shield and then arsenaling the Merciful for later? Or am I saying, okay, well, I have to make sure I block with something. I guess I'll just hope that he doesn't banish my cards. Or we have to say, okay, well, no matter what he banishes, I'm going to play Merciful, and I'm going to let him break my shields because he's going to banish my card anyway. And at the start of my next turn, I'm going to be like, okay, fine. I'll poke with something that I already have. Maybe he destroyed everything else. Arsenal and try and rebuild. Every single hand, every single situation is going to be different depending on what your opponent's trying to do. But what's consistent is what we are trying to do. And what we are trying to do is build our wall of shields. We're trying to build our wall of spectras. Because once we get 2 spectras down, our opponent is under tremendous pressure. Auras give multiplicative value. If I've got 2 Merciful Retributions out at the same time, I'm in a great position. If I've got 2 Genesises out at the same time, I'm in a great position. If I've got any one of those things out alongside an Ode to Wrath, I'm in a great position. And you guessed it, if I get an Arclight Sentinel out before they can attack one of these and keep that value train going, keep that engine running, then I'm in a great position. Because now, if I've got like a Merciful and a Genesis out, and they try and Bravo ability to try and break my shield, so I'm gonna be like, nope, Arclight Sentinel. You can't attack my Genesis, you can't attack Merciful. Or even if they try and break Time Skippers or Time Snap Potion. Time Snap Potion kind of hard counters Arclight Sentinel, so it's not the best example. But if you throw down Arclight Sentinel in this situation, even if they have Time Snap, they're going to have to attack Arclight first. It's going to break Arclight. It's going to go to your soul. You're going to deal Arcane to them. And now they have to say, okay, well, do I attack the shields? Do I attack the Merciful? Or do I attack the Genesis? You know, because once you got these 2 down, even if they try to break them, throwing that 3rd one down on top of it just makes it so that they cannot erase all your value easily anymore. Because every single one of these is valuable. And that's why I don't run Parable, really, because Parable doesn't give you that value in conjunction with the other auras. Parable is more of a Herald buffing aura rather than a aura buffing aura. You know, Ode buffs your auras better than it buffs Heralds. Merciful works better off of Spectral shields and auras than it does with Heralds. Genesis also helps you pay for your auras more than it helps you do anything with your Heralds. So, and Arclight lets you protect your Spectras from other things rather than protecting you. Like, are you going to pay 2 or 3 Heralds to pay for Arclight? Probably not. It's not really doing anything for you compared to having constant value out with these other guys. So, yeah, again, in closing, think about how you are getting value out of these cards long term. Think about what your opponent's trying to do. Use your health as a resource. Like, maybe there's a turn where you want to get this Genesis down, so you can start turning on Atonements in your arsenal. And so maybe you're happy to get rid of 4 Spectral shields because you're saying to yourself, okay, I can turn on the gas on this guy and start pressuring them with the cards I draw off of my Tome of Divinity. Or maybe you need to block out with everything in Arsenal and Ode to Wrath until you get a point where you can play it out and try and get that value down. Or you might even pitch the Ode to Wrath to the bottom of your deck alongside a Arclight Sentinel with your tomes to combine those with a Glisten to get a really good combo off the tail end of your vestige. So what I'll say is, if you're having trouble adapting and kind of transitioning your mentality to Tank Prism, the first thing I would recommend that you do is to become deeply familiar with what all the other heroes do. The more you research and the more experience you get, knowing that maybe a Dorinthia deck with Dawnblade runs certain cards. Like maybe she runs Steelblade Supremacy, or maybe she runs Iron Song Response, or Singing Steelblade. Or maybe you're playing against Bravo and you know that he runs Crippling Crush, and you know that he runs red pummels and blue pummels. Maybe you know that the popular decks run 3 copies of some attack reaction rather than 2 or 1, or maybe they're running every color of something because it's really good in that matchup. You know, you have to start being aware of more things because you're playing a reactive strategy. If you get blindsided because you didn't prepare for the right situation, you're going to lose all the momentum that you were trying to build up. You know, if you were playing with Spectral Shields and you're trying to play Tank Prism and you've got like your Genesis out, and you don't account for the fact that your opponent might have brought Time Skippers in for their foot armor, then you might find yourself being up against someone who says, all right, pop Time Skippers, you got nothing in your hand to really stop them from doing it. They attack your Genesis with maybe a Kodachi, and they're like, okay, great, now I'm going to do my actual turn. And then they start throwing everything else at you. Maybe they pitched a blue, and then they pitched something else to do the Kodachi. Then they come in with a Surging Strike, and they've got another card in hand and a card in arsenal, and maybe they're threatening a Razor. And if you don't have any defense reactions, because you didn't expect them to be able to not only break your Genesis, but also threaten your Spectral shields, you know, you might not have anything left that you can do to stop it. Or you're gonna have to give up cards from your hand. They're gonna be able to start arsenaling up and setting up big combos on you. But if you knew that was a potential possibility, you knew to sideboard your defense reactions in against Katsu, just so that you had enough to be able to stop them from razoring over the top to break your Spectral shields, or to break your footsteps, or to get those on-hit effects. You know, those are the kind of things that you need to be aware of. So I would recommend that you go into FabDB, read every card in the game, and I did this, so I'm not just saying it to say it. If you go to FabDB, you read every card in the game. You know, you don't have to do it all at once. You can break it up over time, but you'll be able to start getting a familiarity with the cards in the game that might be less used now, but those are the cards that would be surprising you and catching you off guard, especially in the future, because no card is really terrible. There are a couple cards that are pretty subpar currently, but if the right card comes along to turn them into really powerful cards, it can come out of nowhere and just blindside you. Take Overload, for example. Overload's a card that came out of Monarch. It's got Dominate inherently, costs 0 to play, only has 3 base attack. That's not really strong with Dominate. If it hits, it gets Go Again, which is pretty good, but that's not very impressive, right? But then you look at cards like Channel Mountain Heroic. Every single time you play an Overload, it's going to have 3 extra attack. Suddenly, 6 or 7 Dominate's a lot better than 3. Especially if it hits and gains Go Again, you can do it again. Play another 6 attack Dominate card with Go Again. Oh, and by the way, you can combine that with Force of Nature to draw cards every time you hit. So all of a sudden, that card seems a lot less bad now that it is able to combine with new cards that you might not have considered before. So, the more familiar you get with the card pool, the more you can start understanding how to play against certain things. Think of what certain characters might want to run, and then when you are sideboarding and knowing the different matchups and knowing the different decks that are out there, you'll be able to have a much better experience playing the deck than if you had just gone in just trying to play out your hands and been met with less than favorable results. So thanks for watching. This has gone a lot longer than I thought it was going to go, but I'm happy to go in depth because the topic really, I could talk about this for hours and we still wouldn't have even scratched the surface, really. So if you need more experience with how the deck plays, feel free to go and watch my gameplay videos. I posted a lot of them and I keep trying to post more, and in all different types of matchups, and you can see kind of the decisions that I make. And what I might actually do is go over a game that I've done in the past and kind of do a review of it to kind of go through my process kind of as the game's gone on, and maybe that would be helpful as well. If you liked this video, let me know by leaving a like. I really do look at that stuff, and you know, if I see a video does better than other videos, I'm gonna make more of that type of video. You know, like I did a box opening and it wasn't super popular, so you know, I'm not rushing out to go buy more boxes and kind of do more of those videos. I mean, I kind of just did it for fun anyway, but you know, if I do Prism deck techs and you guys like those, I'm happy to do more. If you like the gameplays, I'm happy to do more. And if you like these more theory crafting, discussion type of videos, then I'm happy to do more. But you know, they take a lot of time to make, and I'm not really in the business of just kind of putting videos out there that no one wants to watch. So, you know, leave a like if you did like this. Leave a comment saying, you know, maybe questions that you have about Tank Prism. It'll help me kind of address things that you actually are struggling with, or things you actually do want to know, and it might get a good conversation going that we can help kind of bring a community together to understand how to play this hero. So again, thanks for watching. Really appreciate you guys taking the time to stop by the channel and show your support, and hope you guys stay cool and have a good one. And I thought I'd just take a moment to shout out my playtesting buddy Matt. As Matt has said numerous times, he's the best Dorinthia in the world, apparently, And I thought I'd just give him a little bit of a shout out here. So take care and see you guys in the next video. Peace.